Live from New York, this is the Harvey Hour. My name is Stephen Harvey. It's great to have you in today on a Friday. As always, I'm joined alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. It's good to be back. How you doing today?
Back from COVID.
Yeah.
That was tough.
Yeah.
Man, we missed 2 shows as a result of it because we were both so sick.
Yeah, we definitely got hit pretty hard. There's a lot to talk about today, a lot to get into. As per usual, a lot of news to get into, a lot of starting quarterbacks that were announced, some good, some bad. We'll get into it all throughout the show. But let's start with the big news, the one that I think was honestly most expected, and that is that Bo Nix is the starting quarterback of the Denver Broncos. On Wednesday, Sean Payton named the 12th overall pick the starter, and he knew very early on in the draft process that Bo Nix was his guy. The report is after 16 throws at the pre-draft workout, he told Broncos general manager Jerod Mayo that Bo Nix is the guy. So we've heard him compare the excitement to when he was looking at Mahomes in the draft way back when. Now this is Bo Nix's turn to go around. He threw away Russell Wilson, so I want to know, there's a lot harking on Bo Nix succeeding, so I want to know, what do you expect from Bo Nix in his first year in the NFL?
Well, he's following some big shoes here. He's in the same company as John Elway in terms of his career, how his career will open. John Elway was the last rookie quarterback to start for the Broncos at the beginning of a season, and that was way back in 1983. And now it will be Bo Nix starting against the Seattle Seahawks in a tough place to play. With the 11th player there, the fans in the stands, and the way that stadium is constructed, it keeps the sound in. It's going to be very hard for him to hear what's going on. And this was all announced on Wednesday that he'll be the starting quarterback. It was with very little fanfare. Sean Payton told he and Stidham this at the beginning of practice on Wednesday. As Sean Payton said, there weren't any candles, so he didn't have any cake or candles. He hadn't formally told the rest of the team, which was interesting, that he told the media before he told the rest of the team. He said Nix has been outstanding, but there is a ton of room for growth. He has a lot to work on, but he has maturity. He has a high maturity level. I think it's great to share with a great player as John Elway. As Nick said, I want to go out there and get the first win, compete at a high level, and give the Broncos the best chance to win. He's taken the most snaps with the first group against the Green Bay. He was 8 of 9 for 80 yards, 1 TD, and a 27-2 victory. That was pretty interesting. 2 points. All the Green Bay got was 1 safety. In 2 preseason games, he led the offense to scores in 6 or 7 times. That's pretty good, right? With multiple first downs in each drive, but he was playing against the Packers and the Colts reserve, so it wasn't like he was going against the first team. Nick says he's attacked every practice as if he would be the starter. He was pushed hard by both Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. He was a number 12 pick, the sixth quarterback taken in the first round. The last quarterback the Broncos picked in the first round was Jay Cutler back in 2006. He was number 11. This is Peyton's 18th season as a head coach, first with a rookie quarterback starting at the beginning of the season. The Broncos have missed the playoffs 8 seasons in a row now since Super Bowl 50 win. Nix is the 13th different quarterback to start a game for the Broncos since that Super Bowl win. Peyton has lauded Nix. It says his maturity, his decision-making, his accuracy, and his composure are what made him pick him to be the starting quarterback. So it's quite exciting. I'll be anxious to see how Bo Nix does. He was the last of the big quarterbacks picked at number 12, and 6 of them went before him. It's going to be fun to watch to see how all 6 play. He might be the best one of the group. We'll have to wait and see.
I think based on projections, he's actually projected to get the second most rookie passing yards with a little over 4,000, while Jaden Daniels is about 4,100. So to see those numbers from a rookie, I would be very, very impressive. This was expected, though. I think Bo Nix was probably the most ready because he had 61 college starts, by far the record. He played a lot at Oregon. He's been touted. He said, oh, yeah, he's dinking and dunking, which he did. There is a little bit of a caveat to how Bo Nix plays. He's very dink and dunk. He had one of the lowest average depth of targets in college last year, so he plays it relatively safe. But unlike Russell Wilson, he can take the additional deep shot if needed. I think he's really that Drew Brees blend. No wonder why Sean Payton was so attracted to him. Because right now, Drew Brees, Joe Burrow technically right now, but over the course of a career, Drew Brees has the highest completion percentage in NFL history. Bo Nix just came out and completed the number, which is ridiculous. Over 70%. I think it was like 77% last year, which is utterly crazy. In his time at Oregon, he had about 8,000 yards, 74 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions, and that's over the course of 2 years. Think about that. 74 touchdowns to 10 picks. A 7.4 touchdown interception ratio. That's utterly ridiculous. And not only that, he was dealing with multiple head coaches and multiple offensive coordinators. So picking up a system for him was very, very easy to do. And that's another reason why Sean Payton was extremely attracted to him. But in the preseason so far, what has he done? Has it been, the transition from college to the NFL? Has it been hard on him? No. It's been utterly the same. 23 of 30. Which is incredibly efficient. 205 yards, 2 touchdowns. Now, the passing yards, he only plays X amount of snaps. He threw 9 passes in this previous preseason game, and he won't play another preseason game. He won't play this one this upcoming weekend. So this is kind of all we've seen of Bo Nix and what we will see of Bo Nix until week 1. But I'm very, very impressed. The only problem with what I'm looking at the Broncos and how successful Bo Nix can be is a relatively difficult schedule because they play some incredibly difficult teams. Let's bring it up right now. I mean, you take a look at it. You start off, I think, relatively easy, depending on how your defense holds up, against the Seattle Seahawks. I don't think that'll be incredible competition. I think it eases you into a decent shot at warming up to the NFL, real live bullets, actually counting for your statistics. I think it's a good starting place with the Seattle Seahawks. Now, it's at the Seahawks, which obviously you'd start at home. But let's go to game 2. Pittsburgh. Sean Payton's revenge game against, we may not see Russell Wilson play. It could be Justin Fields, depending on, how the preseason ends, I'm sure. But as of right now, it is Russell Wilson. So this is Sean Payton's revenge game against Russ. And then you go at Tampa Bay, at Jets. And then you have a decently easy stretch with one major tough game home against the Chargers. So it goes Raiders, Chargers, Saints, Panthers. Can you go 3 of 4 there? I think so. Absolutely. And honestly, if we see basically the same what we've seen from the Chargers so far, I think that game could be relatively close just because on paper, the Chargers have not lived up to their name. Now, I expect Jim Harbaugh to fix that, but And then you get into sort of the hellhole the rest of the season, where you're up against the Baltimore, at Ravens, at Chiefs, then home against the Falcons, at Raiders again. Very winnable game, especially with the way the team is constructed and what could happen mid-season if Devontae Adams decides to tap out. Home against the Browns, home against the Colts, at Chargers, at Bengals, home against the Chiefs. The back stretch is a little bit rough, but that sort of middle beginning portion, I think Bo Nix could settle in, play his game. And I think Sean Payton is going to work wonders on his development. I think he fits into Bo Nix fits into Sean Payton's scheme almost effortlessly. So I'm looking for a lot of success early on. Let Bo Nix cook, and he has been so far. It did not look really the same between Bo Nix to Jarrett Stidham to Zach Wilson. And Zach Wilson, sorry to say, he basically had no shot at getting this job. Even though Bo Nix was QB3, 0% chance that Nix was going to lose to Wilson.
Yeah.
0.
Bring up that schedule again.
Sure.
So, I think it's going to be tough for them to win that first game.
Okay.
Just because it's at Seattle. If it was at home, I'd probably pick them, but I don't think they'll win the first one.
So that's a loss.
So I think that's a loss. I think they'll win the second one. It's a revenge game for Peyton, and I think he'll pull it off. Against the Bucs, at the Bucs. Yeah, I don't know. The Bucs are pretty good last year. They made the playoffs.
You're thinking Baker could repeat?
I think they're going to lose that game. I think that's a loss. The Jets, I think, is a loss. They're at the Jets. I think they'll win against the Raiders. It's a W.
Okay.
I think they're at home against the Chargers. I think that's a loss. I don't think they're going to
So far, you got 2 and 4.
Yeah, and then they're at the Saints. I give them that one.
Okay.
And then the Panthers, I give them that one.
We're at 500 so far.
Yeah, okay. At the Ravens, that's a loss. Then
Chiefs
is a loss. Atlanta, I think, is at home.
Home against Atlanta, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a loss, so. I think the Raiders are going to win that one.
Sweep the Raiders. Sure, Raiders fans are not happy about that.
Yeah. The Browns, that's versus the Browns.
At home.
At home, I'm afraid they're going to lose that one. Then against the Colts, I think they'll win that one. Against the Chargers, I think they'll split with the Chargers. That's a win. Then I think they'll lose to the Bengals and lose to the Chiefs.
You have 7 and 10.
7 and 10. Yeah. I think that's very fair for a rookie quarterback.
Honestly, besides Caleb Williams, that might be the best rookie record. Jaden Daniels has no offensive line. J.J. McCarthy's not playing.
How is J.J. McCarthy, how long is he going to be out for?
The season.
Really? It's the season?
Yeah, he's done for the year. Tore his Achilles. Or meniscus.
So all the way through. It's a bad
tear. He needs to get it fully repaired. So he's going to be out for the entire season.
That's too bad.
Would have been a good topic to talk about. I think it was on Friday or around Friday the news came out. So yeah, he's done for the year. Jane Daniels has no offensive line. The offensive line's one of the worst in the NFL. Drake Maye, he's playing for the Patriots. The Patriots are favored in 0 games. At least the Broncos are favored in a couple games here. So I think Caleb Williams has probably the best shot to beat Bo Nix. Other than that, I'm not saying that really.
You think Bo Nix could be the best rookie quarterback?
I think right now he would be number 2. I just think with the amount of talent, what the Bears did with Caleb Williams is the perfect thing you need to do for a rookie quarterback. Surround him with the offensive line still needs work. You have a couple young guys that I definitely think need to improve. But besides that, what'd you do? You went out and got a receiver. You extended your star receiver 2 receivers. You extended the receiver you already had. You got a brand new running back. There are things that you did to help out the offense. And I think that's perfect for Caleb Williams. The Broncos, on the other hand, they had a top 7, I think they were number 7 offensive line. And somehow Russell Wilson failed with a top 7 offensive line. We're going to get into him a little bit later on in the show. But I think that if you could bring, you extended your left tackle, you brought back most of your offensive line, if not all of it. I think with Bo Nix with a steady pace. Now you did lose a receiver, but you lost Judy, but instead you replaced him with Josh Reynolds, who I think honestly a little bit more consistent. We saw him with the Lions, made a couple very, very nice catches. So I think that he could be a very nice piece. You also drafted his college buddy Troy Franklin to the team, so you have an instant connection with 2 rookies, Nix and Franklin, that could already help you out. And on top of that, you still have Cortland Sutton, and you have Javonte Williams. It's not a bad roster. They're favored in 2 games.
I would say
2 games.
I think the Bears have a better offense overall than the Broncos.
Yes. No,
right?
not,
more
zero,
weapons.
Zero question.
More weapons.
Well, yeah,
but
yeah,
the Broncos have Sutton.
You do.
And
but
who's their running back going to be?
The Broncos, Javonte Williams. For the Bears, that would be what? DeAndre Swift? Yeah.
So I think the Bears have the upper hand there. I think the Bears have the upper hand with a wide receiver.
No, the Bears are 100% more talented than Broncos.
100%. I'm not sure 100%, but
I mean, the offensive line, maybe the Broncos are better, maybe.
Yeah.
And then that's where I think Swift's production may,
I'd like to see Bo Nix
hit.
do well. I have no gripe against him. I hope he does well.
I think
any of these rookie quarterbacks, I hope they do well.
I think right now, with the amount of confidence, and now we've seen it, it's not a speculation thing out of the draft saying, oh, who do you think will have the best career? We've seen so far. We've seen a couple games of these rookie quarterbacks playing. Caleb Williams, I think, has a 50% completion percentage, made one beautiful throw, but outside of that, it's like, he's okay. Bo Nix was tearing it up. J.J. McCarthy had a great start in preseason before he got hurt. Drake Maye's improving over time. So I think right now, what we're seeing from Bo Nix, he's been the best. The question is, how will that translate when it actually matters, when, live bullets are, being fired?
We'll see.
We will. All right, let's get into our next topic here. So, Russell Wilson's been the news lately. Stephen A. Smith had a very fiery take when it came to Russell Wilson, but recently, he was talking about his legacy, what he wants to leave with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this was the quote that Russell Wilson gave. It says, in terms of legacy, I think the reason why I came here is I want to win a Super Bowl or 2, and that's what we got to do. That's our plan. That's our strategy. That's our mission every day. I think the most important thing for us to accomplish is to play efficient football, move the ball up and down the field. Obviously, we want to celebrate in the end zone. Russell Wilson has said that before. He was talking to Brandon Marshall, I believe, a little while ago. It was about a year ago, and we covered it on the show, where he said he wanted to bring a Super Bowl to Denver. Turns out, Denver didn't want you. Now he goes over to Pittsburgh. Justin Fields is lighting it up. Russell Wilson dealing with an injury. Tom Brady, Drew Bledsoe-esque, I think. So I want to know, do you think Russ will succeed in his goal in bringing the Lombardi Trophy back to Pittsburgh after, 15 years since it happened last?
Yeah. No. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to the Super Bowl this year. You got one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. Russell Wilson hasn't done anything yet. He's been hurt. And when he has been out there, he's been pummeled by the defense. He got sacked all over the place. He looked terrible. We'll see how he does in the last preseason game. He's talking it up. He's putting the hype out there. What else can he do? He hasn't really been able to show what he could do on the field yet because of his injury and the fact that the offensive line has been a sieve for them. So will he even be the starter? It's hard to say. Justin Fields might beat him out. I thought Justin Fields looked pretty good in the last preseason game. So Wilson thinks he's got a formula to make the goal of making it to the Super Bowl a reality this season. I don't think so. I mean, that schedule is very hard, and he's been in kind of a shadow of himself the past couple of years. He's a little better last year, but first year when he was with the Broncos, he was horrible. His identity for the offense is to be really efficient, as you just mentioned. We've got a great defense. We just have to be efficient on offense. Light it up in the red zone. Let's score every time. Well, everybody would like to say that. Everybody would like to do that. Does it happen? No. The mentality that the other team fears us when we're in the red zone, that's the key thing. And I think that's going to be hard to do. In 2023, the Steelers had 304 total yards per game, 186 yards passing, 18 points a game. They were the lowest among the teams that made the playoffs. They did make the playoffs last year, mostly because of their defense and Mason Rudolph at the end there. The red zone TD efficiency only less than 50%, bottom 10 in the league. I think they got a big lift here. The thing they got going for them, I mean, they have a new offensive coordinator in Arthur Smith. And he's a pretty conservative guy. He believes in the run first. It could be ground-heavy offense, and they have two pretty good running backs in Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris. The attack is going to be predicated on the play action and a fair amount of deep shots. And can Russell Wilson throw the deep shot anymore? I'm not so sure. He was a dink and dunker last year. Wilson says we won't have to have trouble moving the ball and need to score when we get in the red zone. That's pretty. I think anybody would say that, right? He's had 16 playoff starts in his career, won one Super Bowl, lost one, and one of the he threw the pass that Malcolm Butler intercepted, one of the biggest plays in Super Bowl history. He hasn't done much since then.
And that's very true. I was on this before before the beginning of last year. Remember, if you've been a follower on the show, you know that I keep talking about this falling off a cliff. This is a trend, not a blip, and I'm staying on it. I think I was a very early advocate of Russell Wilson does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, that he was actually one of the most helped quarterbacks in modern history based on how efficient his defense was. He was part of the Legion of Boom. Marshawn Lynch was they just had a top running team in the NFL most of the time during Russ's time in Seattle. And since then, we talk about jumping off a cliff. This is a 90-degree angle, and he's walking off of it willingly. This is the second time for two teams. You're talking about winning 2 Super Bowls. Remember with Denver talking to Brandon Marshall, I want to win 2 Super Bowls in 5 years. It's year 3. What's going to... Actually, it might be year 2. But still, you went from the Denver Broncos, who you were dinking and dunking like you mentioned, to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where you're still dinking and dunking. Beyond 10 yards, which obviously is a intermediate pass, 20 yards is considered a deep pass. So from behind the line of scrimmage to short, behind the line of scrimmage to 0 to 9 yards, Russell Wilson's average depth of target was negative 1.4 yards. He was averaging throws behind the line of scrimmage. We talk about this doesn't even classify as dinking and dunking, because at least most of the time when you're in a screen pass, the running back is at least level with you or a little bit in front of you, but still behind the line of scrimmage. He's throwing passes backwards. And what's crazy is that his pressure percentage was significantly less than Justin Fields. He was pressured on 23% of these dropbacks in the preseason. He got sacked on every single one of them. Justin Fields, on the other hand, was pressured 46% of the time. He was sacked once. Pressure to sack ratio, 10%. Russell Wilson, 100%. Russ cannot run an offense efficiently anymore. We saw that in Denver. 2 years of dinking and dunking. He's the only quarterback the past 2 years to have double digits in check down percentage. He's not this crazy dynamic player rolling to his right, throwing it 60 yards deep to Doug Baldwin or DK Metcalf for a touchdown. That hasn't been Russ in probably 3-4 years. It just hasn't been. So I'm thinking even more now that there's a very high likelihood this could be a Brady Bledsoe situation where Russell Wilson gets hurt, Justin Fields comes in showing that he could run this offense efficiently enough and has more upside than Russell Wilson in order to claim the starting job. Now, the schedule, and I saw this recently, and I think it's relatively smart. I forget, it might be Mike Florio of Pro Football Talk. I could be wrong, so forgive me. The schedule is interesting because it's a lot of teams that Russell Wilson is comfortable with because he played against those teams a lot at his time in Denver. For instance, he plays Denver in week 2. He was just on the team 5 minutes ago. He plays the Chargers, who he played 4 times in his career when he was with Denver. He plays the Raiders in week 6. He plays the Jets in week 7. There are a lot of these teams where you could say that Russ could be a little bit more comfortable than Justin Fields. But I think if you want to talk about upside, and yes, I did think that Justin Fields wasn't worth a 1 or 2, and I thought he was barely a 3. I think what we've seen so far is that Justin Fields can execute Arthur Smith's offense significantly better than Russell Wilson. And by the minute, Russ is losing the job. That pole position, I don't think that exists anymore. I think this is now a serious... I didn't think so before. I think this became, over the course of these 2 preseason games, a serious quarterback competition. I think it's a very high likelihood. If we see the stark comparison between Russell Wilson And we see the same thing. Gets sacked as soon as he's pressured, can't move the ball. He completed 8 passes for like 47 yards. That ain't efficiency. Not even close to it. And then Justin Fields comes out here and actually does a pretty decent job. His number-wise, and I'll bring it up very, very quickly.
I thought he looked good in that second preseason game.
64.7% completion percentage, 92 yards. Both quarterbacks were not good.
Plus, he's young. He's athletic.
Right.
He fits into Arthur Smith's offense really well. They could do the ground and pound. They could. Justin Fields could be running the ball 8-9 times a game. It could look like Lamar Jackson's offense early in his career. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. I don't think if they do start Russ, they won't give him. He's going to have a very short leash. Yeah. If he plays poorly, he gets hurt a little bit, he's out. Well, I think that Fields will be right in there. I predicted this. I think Fields will wind up the starter. I said it might be 5 or 6 games into the season. I'm now thinking it could be game 2 or 3.
I think it could be a situation very early on. I agree with you with that because from week 11 on, Baltimore, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Philly, Baltimore, Kansas City, Cincinnati. That's not where you want to put in Justin Fields because no matter who's out there, they're going to get killed. The offense won't be able to move. You're playing against Cleveland's defense twice, who was the number 1 defense last year. You're playing Baltimore twice, who's the number, I think, 3 or 4 total defense. Philly's defense, which I guess towards the end of the season was ranked relatively low. But over the course of the season, depending on how they look, they could be a top-tier defense. Kansas City are playing. They were the number 2 defense. And then Cincinnati's defense I don't love, but I think they'll be middle of the pack. Like, if you throw Justin Fields in there, you're basically setting him up for failure. You have to if you're going to put in Justin Fields, put him in against the Raiders. Put him in against the Giants. Don't put him in week 11 versus Baltimore. I think no matter what, I talked about this before. You talk about, and everyone, loves your Bears take, 5-12, and you lose the last 8 games of the season. I think that very well could be a potential opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Well, they have a very rough record, a very rough schedule.
They have the hardest schedule in the NFL. Yeah, hardest. And I'll also say this. Russell Wilson, the Broncos paid $37.79 million for you not to play with them, for you not to be their starting quarterback.
That's a huge mistake.
You're talking about Super Bowl. He's this close to losing a starting job on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
To Justin Fields.
One of the most inefficient offenses in the past 4 years. That's who you're about to lose to Justin Fields, who you got for a 6th-round pick, who you gave up a conditional 6th for, who got replaced by a rookie in Caleb Williams. I think this is a horrible look. Stop talking about Super Bowls. I understand that's the ultimate goal. I think Jaden Daniels would love to win a Super Bowl.
I personally think
Mac Jones would have loved to win a Super Bowl.
I think it's a mistake to talk about winning the Super Bowl and when you first join a team. He has to do that.
Target on your head.
Yeah, it puts a target on your head, and it takes the focus off what you really should be doing is learning the offense, taking it play by play, rep by rep, talking about winning the Super Bowl. I think that's a mistake, but I understand why he's doing it. He's trying to hype it up so he can stay in there as the starter. And right now, I'd say that's at risk, particularly given how poorly he's played and how little he's played in the preseason.
I think, I don't know if it hypes you up. I think it puts the target on your back saying, okay, you set expectations of, I'm going out to win a Super Bowl. I'm bringing a Super Bowl to Pittsburgh. It's like, at least make the playoffs. How about this? Win a game. Huh. Don't get benched because you have an injury guarantee. Don't get kicked off your own team, and teams paying you not to play for them. Let's start with that. How about take it week by week? How about start preseason week 3, where you're about to lose your job if Justin Fields plays well?
Yeah.
Let's start that. Super Bowl is in February. Yeah. There's a very decent shot you won't make the playoffs because of how difficult your schedule is and the fact that your offense is not that great.
I think there's a fair chance you won't start the season. Fields will be the starter, particularly if he plays very poorly in this 3rd preseason game.
I'm saying week to week. Everybody would love to win a Super Bowl. I'm sure everybody would. Phillip Rivers would have loved to win a Super Bowl.
I think it's a mistake to talk about it before you've even taken one snap with a team.
Yeah, yeah. Let's keep it real. Another team is paying you not to play for them. This would be. You got
big money, too.
I'll also say this. He talks about, he had this opportunity and he thanks God. I'm cool with that. But let's also keep this, let's keep it 100% honest here. The Giants offered you a job, a backup job. This is the only team that gave you a starting job. You were viewed as a backup amongst a couple of these teams. This was a starting, and by the way, this might not even be a starting job.
Right. I think that's very much at risk.
Daniel Jones, if you went to the Giants, would be the starting quarterback. You would be the backup to the worst quarterback in the NFL if you were on the Giants right now. What does that say about you?
Says you have to hype it up and say, I'm going to the Super Bowl. I'm going to take this team to the Super Bowl before you even get on the field and take a snap. There's nothing else you can say.
Take a week by week.
Actions speak louder than words for us. We'll see how it goes in the third preseason
dink and dunker.
game. Dink and dunk. You throw a couple interceptions in this game, fumble it maybe, take 2 or 3
That's
sacks.
a Justin Fields issue.
You're going to be on the bench.
I think that's actually a pretty decent shot. We're going to take a break. But coming up, Antonio Pierce. He named a starting quarterback, but he doesn't seem that happy about it. Also, Jacoby Brissett about to lose his job. We'll talk about that right after this.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift.
Whether you're just discovering your voice or taking your show to the next level, you know what the world needs to hear. All you have to do is say it. With Spotify, set up your podcast. Your food podcast. Your mindfulness podcast. Your never thought you'd get this far podcast. And watch those sparks fly.
I put a picture of the
Drop the episode anywhere people listen. And find out who they're cooking with. Where they're finding inner balance, and why they love your show. You're already a creator. Now you can create, connect, and get paid for your passion with one single free tool. Spotify for podcasters. Talk where the world listens.
Welcome back to the Harvey Hour. My name's Stephen Harvey. It's great to be back, and it's great to have you here on a Friday. As always, I'm doing alongside my dad, Stephen Harvey. Let's get into our next topic of today's show. So Antonio Pierce, earlier this week, officially named as starting quarterback, and it is the former Indianapolis Colt and Jaguar, Gardner Minshew. Now, he didn't seem that pleased, especially with their performance after their 27-12 loss to Trey Lance, Cooper Rush, and the Dallas Cowboys. Take a listen to what Antonio Pierce thought of his 2 potential and now official starting quarterback.
You can't take the good and not take the bad, right? So wish it ended well for both gentlemen, right? And it just didn't, and we'll look at it, we'll evaluate. They both had opportunities. Aiden had 20 attempts, and Minshew had 21. So about as balanced and as we can get it, and we'll look at it. Obviously, you saw what our plan was tonight, throw the ball around, let these guys showcase what they can do, and we'll talk about it.
So do you think that Antonio Pierce made the right choice in Gardner Minshew over Aiden O'Connell?
I do, and it's not really that surprising. I mean, Gardner Minshew got a 2-year, $25 million contract. Aiden O'Connell's making $915,000 this year, so it doesn't hurt the Raiders' pocketbook to have him stand on the sidelines and watch for another year. Gardner Minshew didn't really excite and show much in the preseason, but he has played well in his time in the NFL in spurts. His record in the preseason so far, they lost. I think did they lose both preseason games?
Yes.
Yeah. They
24-23 to Minnesota.
Yeah, and he was 16 for 33, 212 yards, 1 TD. So it's not like he lit things up. But most starting quarterbacks don't play that much in the preseason. It's what they do in the practices. I think that the coaches make their decision about. And Pierce said there were a lot of factors that went into it. It wasn't just based on the second preseason performance. We feel Gardner gives us the best chance to get off to a fast start. It's Minshew's 6th NFL season. He was a Pro Bowler with the Colts last year, 305 for 490, 62.2% completion percentage, 3,305 yards, 15 TDs, 9 interceptions, 84.6 passer rating, not too bad. He also had 100 yards rushing, 3 TDs on 34 attempts. He was a 6th-round pick back in 2019 by the Jaguars, pick 178th. This was the second time that he'll be a starter. He was the starter his second year at the Jaguars. They had a horrible season that year. O'Connell did start the last 9 games last year after Josh McDaniel got ousted. And in the preseason, he's been 21 of 29, 172 yards, 1 TD, and 1 interception. He was given ample chance to retain his starting job. He just didn't play well enough. They call Minshew a free spirit, an enduring free spirit. He is playing in Las Vegas, so maybe he fits in there well. Over his career, he's been 15 and 22 in the games he started. The Raiders had the 27th ranked offensive last year, so he's got his work cut out for him.
I think that no matter what happened, no matter who the quarterback was, this is an utter tire fire. The Las Vegas Raiders, when's the last time they had an acceptable quarterback? Derek Carr?
Derek Carr was okay.
Although some people don't like Derek Carr.
He played well for them.
Some people don't like him, so let's go back. It for sure ain't Jamarcus Russell.
He was awful.
Rich Gannon?
He was good.
He was good.
He got to the Super Bowl with them.
I also believe he won an MVP, if I'm not mistaken. But is that the last acceptable Raiders quarterback? I think Derek Carr. I put him in a top 10 list 2 years ago. But I think some people don't think that he was good enough. And I think we're seeing with the Saints that he isn't that great.
No, he's not. He isn't playing well with them. He doesn't fit well with them at all.
I think overall, though, wouldn't have mattered. Raiders are an utter tire fire. Because it's Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. Those were the 2 choices. And if those are your 2 starting quarterback choices, the Raiders very well could be and should be and probably will be a top 3 pick. They very well could have the number 1 overall pick. And my guess is they're drafting a quarterback. Because Aiden O'Connell, miss. Derek Carr, let go. Jimmy G, what an experiment that was with Josh McDaniels. And now you got Gardner Minshew, who, you know what? Let's put a little bit of respect on his name. What he goes? He had a 7-6 record with the Colts after Richardson went down. But so far, playing on the Raiders, this past preseason game, he went 10 of 21 for 95 yards. No touchdowns, but also no picks. So it's not horrible. It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's the Las Vegas Raiders. And not only that, there is a very decent opportunity, and the report came out a couple weeks ago, that your star receiver, the one who wanted to team up with his former buddy at Fresno State, Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. Yeah, Adams might be, wanting to get on up out of here. That's a very good shot, especially if the Raiders go first 8 weeks and you're 2-6, 1-7. Because think about it. You go up against the Chargers, the Ravens, the Panthers, the Browns, the Broncos, Pittsburgh, Rams, Chiefs, Bengals, Miami, Denver, Kansas City, Tampa, Atlanta, Jacksonville, New Orleans, LA. Boy, it's a pretty difficult schedule. There's not a lot of wiggle room. There's not a lot of, take a nice breather. Bo Nix at least has a 4 or 5 game stretch where it's like, okay, I could settle in. I could finally throw the ball, efficiently enough to seem like it was worth picking me at number 12. But I think really, the number 8 overall pick of this year's draft screwed over the entire Raiders plan. As soon as the Falcons decide, you know what, we're going to draft for 3 years down the road, and it kind of left the Raiders in a precarious situation of, do we trade up past the Denver Broncos and get Bo Nix, or do we settle here and draft our second tight end in 3 years? They went with, let's draft our second tight end in 3 years. This isn't the 2011 Patriots. You don't have Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. I think that's just straight up. Yes, and Brock Bowers was far and above the best tight end in this draft. It wasn't particularly close compared to, when they drafted Michael Mayer. And I'll say it, your 3 tight ends are not horrible. Harrison Bryant, Michael Mayer, and then Brock Bowers. We'll obviously have to see how Brock Bowers does in the NFL. But this is not exactly a strategy that's built for success. You let Josh Jacobs go. You didn't want to pay him, so you kicked him out the door, essentially. Now Zamir White is going to be your starting running back. Devontae Adams, I think he's still a top 10 receiver when he has a quarterback that can throw the ball more than 6 yards down the field and also doesn't have 2 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. It was not good. Not pretty at all. They also have Jacoby Myers, who I still think the Patriots were idiots to let go for $1 million less. For $1 million more, that the Raiders gave him. So I think no matter what happens, the Raiders are going to be one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL. They're going to be drafting a quarterback. Gardner Minshew will not be the starter next year, and Aiden O'Connell also will not be the starter next year.
What do you think?
This is a bad NFL team.
What does Devontae Adams think right now? He's thinking, I'd like to be out of here. I'd like to be playing for the Jets. There was some talk about a deal getting done that he might be able to make it to the Jets. Yeah. Before the start of the season, that would happen just before the season started. We're in that mode. We're in that mode right now. Let's see what the third preseason game looks like, and then maybe there'll be some talk behind the scenes about Devontae Adams headed to the Jets. I would love to see that, actually.
I think a lot of people would, because it's Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, Mike Williams, Breece Hall, Aaron Rodgers, a brand new top 5, top 10 offensive line that you built, and you have the number 1 graded defense from last year. Like, the Jets would probably be a top 3 team in the NFL with Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
Like, that would be not even up for debate. And the people who are questioning, well, are the Jets going to be good, or is it going to be the classic old Jets? I think that kind of is like, no. This is probably the best Jets team in the history of the Jets when it comes to depth, level of talent, all around. So if that does happen, I think that the Jets would be a top 3 team in the NFL. I don't think it would be up for debate at all. And I would solidify my pick in choosing the Jets as the winner of the AFC East. And that would mean that they are one of the very few teams that are legitimate Super Bowl contenders that you could bet on and be like, I feel pretty good about it. Their odds would definitely increase significantly because it's not Garrett Wilson and then injury-prone Mike Williams. It would be Devontae Adams, who literally the last year with Aaron and Devontae together, it was, Devontae's out there somewhere. Let me heave it to him, and he'll probably come down with it. It's also the last time Aaron Rodgers was good. We haven't seen Aaron Rodgers at MVP level in a few years now.
He should play well, though. I mean, look at the talent around him.
I agree.
And the offensive line even better than it was last year. Hopefully they don't knock him out in the 4th play of the season this year.
Well, they shouldn't. Their offensive line is probably top 10, arguably top 5 in the NFL.
But it hasn't gelled. They haven't played together, though. They got to see whether they can gel.
Yeah, no, that's a fair criticism. But when it comes to this Raiders team, would you feel more comfortable saying, Aiden O'Connell out there? You know what? They'll win 7-8 games.
I don't think that. I agree with you. I think they could wind up with the first pick in the draft.
I think it's very likely. It's going to be Panthers, Patriots, Raiders. Those 3, and maybe I'll throw Cardinals in there. Those 4 teams are like, yeah, we got to think about serious rebuilding here. I think the Panthers, maybe not. Cardinals, maybe not. Raiders and Patriots, absolutely. 100%. You're thinking about, we got to start building for the next 5 years. Because people are going to be getting fired. We got rookies that are or very, very young players we need to develop. Some of our staff might change. We got to figure this out because we are a bad football team.
The Patriots traded away their best player. Well, arguably one of their best players.
Yeah, Jones.
Matthew Judon.
No, Mac Jones.
Yeah, I think you're wrong there.
Speaking about the Patriots, though, let's talk about them for a second because they're still dealing with a quarterback controversy because Drake Maye, I think, kind of shocked the world against the Philadelphia Eagles compared to Jacoby Brissett the past 2 preseason games. I think the alarms are being definitely set off in New England with how poor Jacoby Brissett looks in the preseason. Although Jerod Mayo says, and I quote, "This is still a competition, and Jacoby is still QB1. It's a competition between all guys on the field, including the quarterbacks. Brissett is still QB1. He also continues by saying, my goal is to help this team with whatever way I can, whether that's starting or helping Jacoby, helping this team win is the main focus. He also says that he could make a decision Monday night, Tuesday, but not necessarily make the decision public on either of those days. But I want to know, though, based on what we've seen so far the past couple preseason games, who do you think will be out there week 1, suited up, going under center in the shotgun, week 1 against the Cincinnati Bengals?
I think against the Bengals was one of the better teams with one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I think it's going to be Brissett. I think they're going to start with him. And I think he won't be there long if he plays the way he's been playing in the preseason so far. He better play reasonably well in the game, this last preseason game, because who knows, maybe they would pull the trigger and go with Drake Maye. But I do think Drake Maye is going to get in there reasonably soon. I just don't think they'd want to start him out against a team like the Bengals.
I think, and that's the same thing I talked about with Justin Fields. You don't want to throw him in against Week 11 against the Baltimore Ravens. You just don't want to do that. But when it comes to having the second hardest schedule in the NFL, it's like, okay, where do I put him in? What game could I slip in a rookie quarterback? And I think it's Week 9. But up until that point, what we've seen from Jacoby Brissett is this team could very well be 0-8 by the time Week 9 rolls around, because this team looks abysmal with Brissett at the helm. I mean, I understand. I've said this on the show. Jacoby Brissett is basically a career backup. He had an okay shot with Indy. Then he goes into Washington, and then they're trying to lose, obviously, because it's a battle between draft picks of the Patriots and the Commanders, and Jacoby Brissett was in there late in the game because Sam Howell was just playing so poorly, but you didn't want to start Jacoby because you still wanted a quarterback. But ultimately, here we are. Jacoby Brissett is the presumed starting quarterback of the New England Patriots, but it doesn't seem that way. If I had to make a decision right now, I'm kind of going 180 a little bit on it, because I do think, and I've kind of said this earlier, quarterbacks that need to develop need the live reps. They need the live snaps. I would start Drake Maye. I don't care who you're playing. I understand. I don't want to ruin Drake Maye, because that's what happened with Mac Jones. We learned our lesson. I think there's a little bit of a difference. You didn't ruin Mac Jones by throwing him in early, because think about it. He beat out Cam Newton for the starting job. He earned the role. We didn't just give it to him because he's entitled. Oh, we drafted him high, let's just put him in there. No, he earned the role. This would be the same thing. Drake Maye would earn the role, because literally since the Patriots drafted Drake Maye, we heard that he's a project. We heard that he needs a lot of work. Jerod Mayo is now officially saying some nice things about Drake Maye. But up until this point, it's been negative and like, this kid needs improvement. So if Drake Maye earns the starting role, don't be like, oh my God, we're going to ruin him by not sitting him. No, he earned the spot. Where Mac Jones went wrong is Bill Belichick drafted the entire offense. That's what went wrong. You got broken down Juju Smith-Schuster. You drafted Tyquan Thornton, who can't stay healthy, stay on the field, and catch passes. You got Jalen Reagor. You got Kayshon Boutte. And the number one receiver last year was 5'8" slot receiver Demario Douglas. You can't tell me that Mac Jones was ruined because you threw him into the Lions' den in his rookie year. No, he got ruined in year 2 and 3 when he decided to draft literally the worst offensive draft amongst any team in those 2 years. I think Drake Maye starting would be perfect because he needs the work. And we see in the live reps, he's getting better and better and better. Now in practice, how do we start off with? He completed two passes in 2 11-on-11 drills. That wasn't good. We covered it on the show. A lot of people didn't like the take. Well, that was the first padded practice. And here we are now. Drake Maye looks much better. Much better. And I think seeing him in the game, live reps, running the offense, moving the chains, moving the ball down the field, and even scoring a rushing touchdown, we're seeing what Drake Maye could be with a roster that is one of the worst, and supporting cast-wise, the worst in the NFL. Jacoby Brissett with the same unit. Same exact unit. Honestly, maybe a little bit better because he's out there immediately, which means the starters are out there. He looks horrible, but that's to be expected. It's Jacoby Brissett. He's just there to be a bridge quarterback. He's not there to be the future quarterback for the New England Patriots. So for me, it's the same thing with Trey Lance. Same thing with Anthony Richardson. You have a young quarterback that needs development, as long as he's not like just a horrible quarterback, a complete whiff. And mentally, he can examine the game and he's efficient and effective. Unlike Zach Wilson, who we see him throw away footballs into the arms of Devin McCourty, not kind of near the sideline. Like, that's something that has nothing to do with physical attributes. Mm-hmm. That's the mental game.
Yeah. Well, one observation I had, which I said to you, I haven't mentioned on the air here, is that Drake Maye standing on the sidelines, to me, looks like Tom Brady. They look a lot alike to me, and he wears number 10, which was Brady's college number. So maybe it's a foreshadowing. Maybe it's Tom Brady reimagined, reborn as a New England Patriot. That would be fantastic, man. But I think given this Patriots schedule this year, and they really didn't improve their offense. I mean, their offense does not look like it's going to be much good anyway. It's just basically the same as last year. The offensive line, the names I don't know any of the names of the people on the except Owenu. I don't know anybody. He's in there
last year.
Yeah, but he was a rookie last year.
He was one of the worst guards in the NFL last year.
Yeah, so
David Andrews is old.
And their wide receiver core, I like seeing Tayshaun Boutte out there catching a few balls.
He's made a couple nice catches.
I saw him drop a few too. And Jalen Polk, maybe he's going to be good too.
Javon Baker as well.
Yeah, and Demario Douglas is a good little receiver, but again, he's not a number 1.
5'8".
Yeah,
you're not sending him out wide ever.
Yeah. So Mayo said that all the quarterbacks are going to play, which is a little odd if you in your last preseason game. Usually the starter doesn't play in the last preseason game. He said they'll all play more than one series. So it's
why is Bailey Zappi out there?
They're going to let him play, and I'd say he's last. He's last on the depth chart for sure. And
let's see what
most teams don't take 4 quarterbacks on the roster, so. Most teams no more than 3, so somebody's going to be odd man out, and I think it probably is Zappi. And Mayo said there's still a few positions where it's still a battle, so he likes competition. He said we've been talking about competition, and that's still the message. While the games don't count right now, they matter, according to him, and he wants to see as much as he can of these players. Mayo said he will miss the media on the field. They can't be out there now after this preseason game. They'll be restricted. That's a 180-degree turn from Bill Belichick, that's for sure. Bill Belichick didn't want to have anything to do with the media. So it's a very different culture in New England nowadays. Is it a winning one? I don't think so yet.
I think, especially with the difficulty of their schedule, they have, I think, the second hardest schedule in the NFL, and you're going out there with the worst supporting cast in the NFL. And by the way, I could already tell you right now, Antonio Gibson, the backup running back, is a complete whiff. He has been as ineffective a running back as you possibly can be.
Well, maybe Kevin Harris will be the backup.
He very well could be. He made a couple nice runs and scored a rushing touchdown in the first preseason game.
Yeah.
Ramondre Stevenson had a couple of very, very nice runs, but Antonio Gibson has not looked effective whatsoever.
Who do you think that they're not going to take 4 quarterbacks?
No, Zappi's out.
Zappi's out.
Zappi's out.
And Milton will be the
emergency QB3.
Yeah.
100%. Zappi just isn't good. He wasn't good. Think about this. He got released last year when Mac Jones wasn't even given the starting job.
Right. Nobody even picked him up.
Belichick would never announce him as the starter last year, and Zappi still got released. And on top of that, Patriots fans were chanting Zappi every single game because they thought he was so good. Newsflash, he didn't get picked up, and he was released from the Patriots before the season started. So how good really is he? Probably not very good. Let's get into our next topic here. Wide receiver, 27-year-old wide receiver for the New York Giants, Darius Slayton, said Thursday that he was tired of the negative narrative surrounding Daniel Jones. Now, obviously, it's New York media. Criticism is high. But he's tired of that narrative by saying that there's a double standard when it comes to Daniel Jones and other quarterbacks, and this was his full quote. I think because we play in prime time a lot, we're media covered a lot. We're the Giants. If we were the Jaguars, you don't hear anybody say anything about Trevor Lawrence or Justin Herbert for that matter. Matter of fact, if you ask most people about Justin Herbert, they probably tell you that he's a top 5 quarterback, but under what logic? Can you really make the case for that he's a top 5 quarterback? You just believe he's capable of that because you see the big arm, basically that he's big, he's tall, he's a rocket of an arm. You assume his processing is good. You assume he's smart and all of these things. You don't actually know, though. And that's on top of the fact that Sauce Gardner was asked about Daniel Jones. It was a very long pause. And then he said, he's a good quarterback. But really nothing besides that. And that kind of, went around social media. So I want to know, do you think Darius Slayton has a point that there's a double standard between Daniel Jones and some of these quarterbacks that are being considered top 10 like Justin Herbert?
Well, I think he does have a point about the media fishbowl and New York. New York is the biggest media outlet, has the most sports casters and analysts anywhere in the country. So, if you're you win in New York, you're enshrined, and if you struggle, you are lambasted and at an extraordinary level. And that's what's happened to Daniel Jones. He's been lambasted at an extraordinary level, and in most cases, I'd say rightfully so. But it does get more criticism than someone like Derek Carr gets down in New Orleans, although Derek Carr has been getting some criticism because he hasn't been playing all that well. But I think Darius Slayton, he ought to look at some of the stats when you compare Daniel Jones to Justin Herbert last. Daniel Jones' best year, 3,200 yards passing. Justin Herbert, 4,300 yards, not too shabby. And I think Justin Herbert, just as Darius Slayton says, he's got the big arm. He's big. He's tall. He has a rocket arm. I think he's pretty smart out there. He says, you don't actually know? Well, I do actually know. I look at his stats, and they say, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And he's making a lot more money than Daniel Jones, who's got a contract for $160 million. Justin Herbert got one for over $200 million bucks. So, I think there's night and day between those two guys. I would think I would take Justin Herbert every day of the week. I admire Darius Slayton a little bit for standing up for his quarterback. He says it's easy to say negative things once there is a negative narrative around a person. In this case, it doesn't make it true. Nor does he see him as nor does anyone really see him on a day-to-day basis when we're in the preseason. So we'll see how Daniel Jones does. He doesn't look good in the preseason. They came out there, threw a couple of interceptions in the last game. One, he should have just thrown the ball away before he was going to take a safety. Threw it right to the defensive guy for a pick six. So it looked like more of the same so far in the preseason here. It's nice that you got players that will stand up for you, Daniel, but you got to step out onto the field and show that you can do it, or you'll be lambasted in an extraordinary way, because this is New York.
Well, I'll say that the fact that one quarterback, his best season is 1,800-yard difference, not exactly, one's getting bashed more than the other, but they're the same type of quarterback, because that's not the case at all. Justin Herbert is far and away the best quarterback if you compare him and Daniel Jones, and it isn't even close. There's a reason why Justin Herbert is considered a top 10 quarterback, because he is. When he's out there and he's not completely banged up or dealing with a pretty decent injury that knocked him out the rest of the season, he's a very, very good quarterback. So let's jump into the career numbers. How Justin Herbert has done since 2020. This is with minimum 35 games started. Let's take a look at the numbers, shall we? He's tied for 11th in completion percentage, 3rd in passing yards a game, 4th in passing touchdowns, 13th in passer rating, TD interception ratio, he's 7th, and he has 14 game-winning drives. Yes, while some of those bad numbers, like 13th and tied for 11th, might seem like, not top 10 numbers. Well, that completion percentage is higher than some great quarterbacks that I think a lot of people would say are definite top 10 and maybe even above Justin Herbert. Think about that. That's 66.6, which he's tied for 11th in, is higher than Josh Allen, Matt Stafford, Lamar Jackson, Trevor Lawrence, and Jalen Hurts. Passing yards. Only Mahomes and Tom Brady, who's been retired now for 2 seasons, have more passing yards a game than Justin Herbert in the same time frame. Passing touchdowns. He has more than Dak, Jared Goff, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Tua Tagovailoa, Jalen Hurts, and Trevor Lawrence. How about passer rating? Higher than Lamar, Goff, Hurts, and Lawrence. Game-winning drives. Only Derek Carr and Kirk Cousins have more. Those two quarterbacks have 15. Justin Herbert has 14. Fourth quarter comebacks. He's second. Now, I don't have it here on the stat sheet, but Justin Herbert is second. Only Kirk Cousins has more. Kirk Cousins has 12. Justin Herbert has 11. The main problem why we don't see more success from the Los Angeles Chargers is not due to a lack of success offensively. It's due to the horrible coaching and performance of the defense. Would you believe that the Chargers have the most points scored in the first 3 years of Justin Herbert's career since the merger? That's phenomenal. It's an NFL record since the merger. What about defensively? They have given up the most points in the first 3 years of Justin Herbert's career since the merger. So much so, they're a net minus 23 points. They've given up 23 more points than scored. That's horrible. Anthony Lynn, not a great head coach. Brandon Staley should have been fired 2 years ago. Now they got Jim Harbaugh. We're going to see a different Chargers team this year. And that honestly, and it really, really sucks that it came down to this year when you lost your running back, you lost your two top receiver, your two receivers, and Quinton Johnston, who has a drop problem and who isn't so far a good receiver or even close to being a good receiver. He's going to be, I believe, your wide receiver 1. That's my only concern. You lost your starting running back. You lost your top 2 receivers. And I believe you also lost your tight end. Your offense lost a lot of pieces, and you have a very expensive defense.
Mm-hmm.
So
you've got a great coach now, though. I think that helps a lot.
You have a coach that has won
and you
every
have
single
a potentially
place that
great quarterback. I think he's proven that he can do it. So, they have the wide receiver that they drafted last year who had a tough start. Maybe he'll play better this year.
Based on what I've seen in training camp, some of the footage, it looks a lot like the same. Drop problems, not great. So that's my only concern. But I do think that with Gus Edwards, I think J.K. Dobbins also on the team, it'll be more of a ground and pound type offense, which is kind of what Jim Harbaugh did splendidly with Michigan. So my guess would be it will be just pound the ball, keep it going. And by the way, Quinton Johnston, by the way, is 4th on the wide receiver depth chart. 4th. You got Joshua Palmer, Ladd McConkey, and DJ Chark.
That's a pretty unexperienced wide receiver core. That's going to be...
Palmer's been there. McConkey, I believe, is a rookie. Chark's been around. Quinton Johnston, though, to be downgraded from a first-round pick to now being 4th on the depth chart. You also have Jerry Rice's son, Brendan Rice. I don't know if he'll exactly be out there slinging it. He was a late-round draft pick. Your offensive line, though, you got Joe Alt. A lot of people thought you'd go receiver there because you desperately need a receiver. But Joe Alt seems to be very, very good. Run blocking could be a little bit better. But overall, the Chargers should be a pretty decent team this year. I think they will make the playoffs. But I think overall, to say that it's a double standard, Justin Herbert plays in L.A.
It's a pretty big market.
He doesn't get criticized this heavily because we all understand the context of what's going on in LA.
He plays better. He plays decent. He has some exciting games. He has some winning drives.
Yeah.
He doesn't make huge mistakes in big moments. Those are the things that make people like him. Make them say good things about him instead of lambasting him like they do Daniel Jones for throwing interceptions, for losing games that he should win.
Was not many of those because think about it, expectations is a big deterrent of how disappointed you'll be. If you have no expectations, then you like, for instance, if the Panthers go out and win 6-7 games, it's like, oh my God, look at this team's bounce back. We were stunned by the Houston Texans who went 3-13-1 when they won 10 games, just because you went from 3-13-1 to 10-7. If the Panthers go from 2-15 to 7-10, it's like, okay, this team's in the right direction. We were stunned last year. I think some of the context is that Justin Herbert ended up getting hurt. Yeah, but the Chargers were terrible.
I think
they were 5-12. I think
Daniel Jones is done if they don't have a winning record, and I think there's chances of that are very slim. So I think this is his last year in a Giants uniform.
There's a reason why one guy got paid $40 million is going to get released this year after 2 years. One's getting paid, I think, $52.5 million or $52.1 million per year, and is still considered a top 10 quarterback in the league.
Performance.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we talk about, oh yeah, you're in New York, he plays for the Los Angeles Chargers. He plays in L.A. L.A. is arguably a bigger sports media market, just based on recent success. You compare New York to L.A. and look at the difference success level. You could argue that L.A. is a bigger sports media market than New York is right now. So if you want to bring that argument, you could say, well, Justin Herbert, shouldn't he get criticized more? He's in a bigger market.
Not when he plays well. People enshrine you when you play well in a big media market.
Yeah. I mean, some markets that are relatively small, like Chicago, some fans, as long as you're exciting, fight to the death for you. People still want Justin Fields on the Bears. They're still fighting that maybe Caleb Williams isn't, the right quarterback and Justin Fields should still be there. I'm sure some people in our comment section still believe that. based on some of the responses we've gotten. So, overall, bad take. I understand you're the teammate, but you don't need to bring it to this level of, oh yeah, Justin Herbert. He should get criticized more. We're assuming that he's a top 10 quarterback, but as he proved, no, he has, based on his performance.
He wants a lot of balls thrown his way, and so he's cozying up to Daniel Jones, hoping he'll get a lot of passes.
There's not many quarterbacks. There's not many quarterbacks that can go toe-to-toe. Now, albeit, winning them is different because they've had some very, very unfortunate outcomes in the Mahomes-Herbert games, but they're always close. There's not many times Mahomes just shuts down Herbert.
Yeah.
Normally, they're close. The first game of Herbert's career, he was not supposed to be in. He came in, went toe-to-toe with Mahomes. Daniel Jones can't do that. So
Has never done it. No, not yet.
will he?
Doubtful.
All right, that'll wrap up today's episode of the Harvey Hour. We thank you for the constant support as always. Some things, like I said, this is the start of Season 5, brand new season of the Harvey Hour. NFL season's ramping up very, very quickly. We got 1 week of preseason, then the bye week, and then start of week 1, Ravens-Chiefs, Thursday Night Football. By the way, we have to do our standings predictions, top 10 quarterbacks entering the regular season. There's a bunch going on. Heading for that bye week, so next week we'll talk about a bunch of preseason games. Mac Jones plays, I think, now, so it's going to be fun watching him. But for this episode of the Harvey Hour, my name is Nathan Harvey. That's my dad, Stephen Harvey. We're the hosts of the Harvey Hour. Catch us Tuesday, 6:30 p.m. Eastern. It's good to be back.
Great to be back.
Right
Good
on
night,
YouTube.
Grandpa.
Traveling can be a nightmare. Why? You can't watch your favorite shows abroad. You can't trust public Wi-Fi spots anymore. And when you return, roaming bills kill your vibe. Unless you get a NordVPN and Saley deal. NordVPN will increase your privacy online. And Saley, a global eSIM data app, will save you from those unexpected roaming charges. Grab the 2-year NordVPN deal with 76% off and get up to 20 gigabytes Saley eSIM data gift